Okay, now we're going to look at what's called joins, and it could be that this video is one of the most important videos in the whole course because it talks about how to knit together the information that is in a database. One of the things you may have noticed when we looked at the diagram in the last video is the fact is the information in a database that's well designed at least is scattered around among a bunch of tables. So for example, in the case of student, in this table we have the last name, first name, email, and that kind of stuff, and the major ID. But if we want to know the name of the major that the student is in, we have to go over and look in the major table. So to see a whole piece of the picture of a student, including the name of the major that the student has, you have to join together information from the two tables. And the way we do joins is based on the relationship between the two of them. So this major ID field here in student connects to or refers to the primary key ID field in the major table. So let's go see how we actually do that inside SQL. You're already familiar with this kind of SQL right now, where we selected last name, first name, major ID out of student, and then we ordered it by last and first name. Okay, and we get the names of each of the students here. And the ID of their major, but that's not useful information. Most people won't have memorized what a major of 5 or a major of 6 is. And also there are some students who don't have majors, like this Christine Bailey or Joyce Barnes. Okay, what we want to do is modify this SQL in order to be able to display the name of the major, and to do that we have to join in the major table. So what I say here is after student I say inner join, and I'm just going to turn on caps lock, inner join, and then on the next line I'll say major, the name of the table that I want to join with student, on, and now I have to tell the system how to connect the two tables. So I say major ID, major dot ID equals student dot major ID. That means it's going to bring, it's going to scan the first record out of the student table, Kenneth Alvarez. Then it's going to take the 5 for that person's major ID and look in the major table to see if it can find the 5. And if it does find it, it will retrieve that name out of the table. So what I want to do up here, instead of saying student.major, I want to say major.name, because that's the name of the student's major. Now I'm just going to take this, because I want to be able to contrast it with what we already have. I'm going to take this and just make a new query window and paste it in like that, and then let's zoom in on it, and then we'll run it. So now we're producing for Kenneth Alvarez the word nursing. So in our select field up here we have fields from student and then a field out of the major table, and we join them together and it works very well. So we can look at this record and at this output, and it's oriented more toward humans who want to see the names of departments, not the department numbers. People who are not very familiar with the system won't have those department numbers. So on a report or a listing or student information or an email or something like that, where you're getting information out of the database, you're going to have to write joins like this that produce information. Now, let's beautify the thing, and it just indented major joins. So just to recap what's going on here. We start with the student table, we inner join the major table, and the fields that we use to match records are the major.id in the major table and student.major ID. Let's go look at our diagram. So we're taking the major ID out of the student table and matching it against an ID in the major table, and then we're retrieving the name field out of major. So that's a basic inner join. Now, an important thing about what happens is, and that's why I wanted to be able to go back and compare the original version of the file, is look at the people like Christine Bailey and Joyce Barnes who do not have a major. If we look at the output from the join, they're not present. It went from Jose Armstrong to Gerald Bechtel. So it skipped over those from Armstrong to Bechtel. Now why did that happen? The reason is in an inner join, an output record is a record is output only if there's a match in both tables. And what happened when it got to the record for Christine Bailey, it said, oh, the major ID is missing. It's null. So I know I won't find a record with that value in the major table. And since it couldn't match records on both sides of the join, we had a student record, but there was no major record. Because it couldn't match on both sides of the join, it didn't output the record at all. So students who don't have a major will be excluded from this listing because of the fact it's an inner join. A little bit later we'll get into outer joins that allow us to connect records between tables even when they don't match on both sides. But for now we have an inner join, and it outputs records in fields from both student and major where the student has a valid major.